There has never been one quite like this.
I shouldn't have left. I mean, honestly.
Keep Kamala and carry on.
Tonight, all of the campaigning across all the battlegrounds comes to a close.
Kamala, you're fired. Get out.
And the trash's name is Kamala Harris.
Can we agree that is weird behavior there?
We are done with that. We're done.
And on this final day of voting, the people will decide the future of American democracy.
We will fight, and we will win.
Do we believe in the promise of America? Are we ready to fight for it?
The thousands of proud, hardworking American patriots.
I love our country with all my heart. I see a nation that is ready to move forward.
Inflation, I will stop the invasion, and I will bring back the American dream.
I believe in the fundamental freedom of Americans to make decisions about their own bodies. Back in North Carolina.
In Holland, Michigan.
Hello, Scranton.
We love you, Las
Vegas. The time has finally come. Right now, all across America, votes are being counted. Who will be your next president?
I pledge to be a president for all Americans.
Our country will be greater than ever before.
On this historic night, with the stakes so high.
When we fight, we win.
We will make America great again.
The podcast king has spoken. Joe Rogan given a last-minute endorsement to Donald Trump while plugging his new Elon Musk interview. Speaking of Musk, he's going to be hanging out with Donald Trump tonight in Florida. And here's the billionaire taking a blowtorch to Democrat misinformation.
They're doing all the things that they accuse Trump of doing.
Yeah. Openly. Yeah.
I mean, the sheer number of hoaxes that the Democratic Party is pushing over and over again, deliberate, concerted, repeated pushing of hoaxes. You're like, wait a second, like, come on, man, this is too far.
And you're supposed to be the good guys.
You're supposed to, and you claim to be the good guys? I'm like, exactly.
You're supposed to be the progressives.
You can't claim to be the honest people if you're deliberately pushing hoaxes that have been debunked thoroughly.
Just talking about Pennsylvania, it seems like, I think Trump has been already kind of laying the groundwork about alleging voter fraud, which there's no evidence of.
Yeah. No, I know he's tweeting about it tonight.
The fact that he's doing that tonight, Alyssa, does that tell you that he's worried about what they're saying?
It's a mixed bag, but the clip at which he's doing it, the way he's doing it, targeting Pennsylvania, I think they recognize their closing message was nowhere where it needed to be. And some of the early projections we're seeing show a momentum that I think a lot of Americans are feeling, that this Trump era may be coming to an end.
Well, there's a lot that's at stake in this election, but let's start with that. I mean, candidates don't get to declare that they won. We saw in 2020 that Donald Trump claimed that he won, and he didn't win, and he's still claiming that he won in 2020. And that's, of course, a lie. And he used that lie to persuade people to march to the Capitol. And, of course, there was violence in his name, for which the leaders of his party blamed him for making a historic attempt to overthrow 81 million votes. So this looks very much like the same playbook.
One of the things that was said in the polling data was 53% of voters say government should do more. That generally favors Democrats in a presidential race. I'll be looking for that right away.
Yeah, whatever.
We got snacks, we got water, we've got caffeine. We are ready if we have ever been ready for anything. The campaign ended with one candidate drawing tens of thousands of people to the largest, most rip-roaring rallies she had over the course of her entire campaign, while the other candidate, at the end of his campaign, he was unable to fill arenas in his final week.
I think it's going to be like a Tom Cruise marriage. It's going to pretend to look close. Could go on forever.
You know what? Let's do this.
In your face, Harold.
He should be scared in Pennsylvania because there is an energy, there is a surge. The Puerto Rican vote by itself has been lit on fire, wildfire. You know, Puerto Ricans culturally, they vote a lot. And so there is a big tidal wave vote coming in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, Ed, officials in at least 2 states, Maine and Georgia, say police have responded to threats against schools and polling places today. None of them credible.
Well, Jake, they are watching very closely what has been happening throughout the day, and that there have been bomb threats being called in to polling places. They are being investigated, and as a result, some of these polling places maybe temporarily were closed, voters turned away. This is happening in the parts of the state where the Democratic-leaning voters
had identified the source, that it was from Russia. The FBI also putting out a statement. 30 bomb threat hoaxes have targeted election-related locations nationwide.
How do you feel about the way this campaign has closed and brought us to this day?
I don't think that she could have contrasted herself with any actions more than she did. Sort of a case study in humility.
It's been brilliantly done. If this is an audition for managing a complex organization like the United States, Kamala Harris has passed the audition flawlessly. This has been, in many ways, a perfect campaign. It's like what Obama did.
We asked about hurricane aid and if it's getting to the people who need it. Look how evenly divided Georgia voters are on this question. 47% say yes, hurricane aid is getting to the people who need it. 50% say no, it's not. Who do you trust to handle a crisis? 51% say Trump, 47% say Harris.
All right, fascinating stuff.
What are you hearing from people on the ground
Look,
right now?
There are a couple of things that I think are really important to stoke here. The feeling is she's going to pick up North Carolina.
The convention center is giant. It's beginning to fill up. There are about a dozen cash bars that are setting up, preparing to open. The greatest hits are playing from your uncle's best wedding, maybe the second time around. One way or another, as one supporter told me, this is a night that they anticipate will end in tears.
I don't want to freak you out just yet. Obviously, Kamala Harris's quickest path to 270, right through the Rust Belt.
Our partners at 538 say it's about a 50-50 night going in, but it's much harder if Pennsylvania falls that way. So that is the state that puts you in a commanding position if you win it.
The person who wins Pennsylvania wins the White House. In the meantime, we can call Indiana, the state of Indiana, the first state of this hour to call, going to Donald Trump, and it's 11 electoral votes.
That Donald Trump has won the presidential election in Kentucky.
Meanwhile, Vice President Harris will sail to victory in liberal Vermont. 19 electoral votes for the former president, 3 for the vice president.
There are some indications that late breakers are leaning toward Harris.
As you've pointed out, gender, it's women who showed up in higher numbers to vote early. Women like to get things done, and we are seeing that play out in this election tonight.
Harris isn't getting enough from women that she would need to overcome what Trump is getting from men.
And we will see the impact that former President Donald Trump has down the ballot. We'll send it back to you.
Nate Ford with the golf voice. Yeah. That was nice. Whisper.
Maybe he felt like he had to be quiet.
Yeah.
Not a good close for Donald Trump. He hasn't been able to fill the rallies. He's addled. He has racist comedians opening up. Whatever. It's been a trashy week for Donald Trump. It's been a very strong week for Kamala Harris. And if you're sitting there in the line thinking, I want to vote for the person who has a W.
Voters concerned about security, potential violence. We'll have more when we come back. So then what happened?
Donald Trump will win the state of West Virginia.
It's a big difference on the gender vote. So listen, I'm not going to say I went from optimistic to nauseously optimistic.
These numbers would, if you ostensibly, be pretty good for Kamala Harris if democracy is the top issue.
Doing the math, I think I've been covering Trump now for going on a decade, dare I say. I have never heard his messaging as dark as it has been in recent weeks, where he falsely claimed yet again fraud in 2020. And he talked again with lies about criminal migrants, he said, pouring through our border. That is just factually untrue. We talk about what he has done with race in this campaign. He has suggested that migrants have bad genes, that they are poisoning the blood of our country, telling them that those are the people that are making your neighborhoods unsafe and they are taking your jobs, and really tapping into this us versus them. Today from Donald Trump, what we heard there in Florida was that immigrants are, again, taking your jobs and ruining this country.
They took our jobs. They took your jobs. Took your jobs. Yeah, they're down. Took our jobs.
Expects that Donald Trump will win the state of Florida.
Projecting Donald Trump to be the winner in Tennessee. Donald Trump projected to win the presidential race in the state of Missouri.
Donald Trump wins the state of Alabama, 9 electoral votes.
The vice president will win Illinois.
In Oklahoma tonight, one of the most Republican states in the country, Donald Trump picks up another 7 electoral votes.
And if you go back, Donald Trump said, oh, I'm
a convicted felon, so black men will vote for me. Oh, I'm putting out gold tennis shoes, so black men will vote for me.
Former President Trump will win South Carolina.
Kamala Harris wins in the solidly Democratic state of Massachusetts, 11 electoral votes. Vice President Kamala Harris winning the state of Maryland tonight, 10 electoral votes.
And the former president will win neighboring Mississippi.
That Donald Trump has picked up the 6 electoral votes in the state of Arkansas.
In the District of Columbia, which for some reason isn't a state, the winner is Vice President Kamala Harris. This is interesting. In Florida, statewide ballot measures that would have legalized marijuana is now projected to fail. In Florida, it has to pass by 60%. Abortion rights measure on the ballot in Florida, but 57 is shy of the 60% needed.
You got a strong governor like you have in Florida. DeSantis will probably be a big part of that story. It's important to note that they also had an abortion initiative on the ballot there in Florida, and it looks like it's going to win the right to an abortion initiative, 57-43, almost like the same numbers that Trump won with. So people split the ticket there.
The Florida Democratic Party is the most incompetent party I have ever seen. A bunch of incompetent idiots that run that party and run it into the ground and have destroyed the Democratic Party in Florida. Why is it that you have to get to 60% to win? What the hell kind of rule is that?
Yeah, Ron DeSantis has put everything on trying to ensure that Florida will buck the trend of every other state, including, as you said, threats, whatever it takes to try to make sure that that amendment fails, using the power of government in a way that is, I would say, openly fascist.
Donald Trump right now is winning that county. That is a very heavy Puerto Rican county.
This is where it could be a warning sign for other trends we're seeing elsewhere in the country.
Wokeness is on the ballot, whether we feel it or not. I'll never understand how Kamala Harris chose someone in Tim Walz who was to the left of her on the woke agenda.
Saying that Latino men in some key areas are breaking for Trump.
If you dive deeper into these gender numbers, there's some real concern for Democrats. Let's start with Latino men, for example. Trump is winning them 54-45 right now. And she's only winning 61% of Latinas. Those are low numbers. Those are not comfortable numbers.
Broad national polling, exit polling about Harris's strength among Latino men, and they seem to be breaking for Donald Trump.
The other one, if you look at white women.
They've also said that Trump is doing better with women than Kamala Harris is doing with men.
What we're looking at is some in the Harris campaign thought maybe support for this measure might connect to support for Harris and maybe help bring up her vote numbers. It hasn't.
Essentially, Kamala Harris, based on these figures, is not doing as well as she needs to do to turn out the women's vote.
She's underperforming with women.
Right? The hope was that she could win them nationally, given the abortion issue, given the fact that she would make history. Trump is winning what traditionally happens, 52% of them. I mean, both of those would be real warning signs for the Harris team.
I think there's a lot more game out there, so just relax, y'all.
Everybody simmer down.
What I am hearing is a lot of optimism.
And in Georgia and North Carolina, she's also underperforming Joe Biden among independents.
This is kind of foreboding potentially for the Harris campaign.
It's not our fault. It's the founding fathers. They decided on this thing called the Electoral College, which, interestingly, no other country in the world decided to copy.
The idea of taxing unrealized capital gains is beyond insane. And the idea of price controls, that's a bad idea, too. We left those alone, and they are very, very dangerous ideas.
But these approval ratings for Joe Biden are brutal.
I mean, it is brutal. And there's no other way to look at it. And that is, no question, a big headwind. Wants to turn the page and that she's a new generation and all the things that we've heard at every one of her stump speeches.
Not just that she was the vice president, but that, look, you were in the room. You were always there. There were all kinds of decisions. You could have made a difference, and you didn't.
And then, of course, there was her gaffe on The View when she was asked, what would you have done differently over the last 4 years? At this moment, and I think of it as a tennis match, there are no surprises. There have been no flips.
If you are just joining us right this second, I had to summarize what's going on. No surprises. There's been no surprising result
As one
anywhere.
White House official put it to me a short time ago, nauseously optimistic.
It is still early. They are still prepared for anything, but they're definitely starting to smile, definitely starting to sway. They're feeling good here at Trump headquarters.
A cool guy wrote in, Anna got hotter when she became a conservative. Here for the meltdown.
In Texas at this hour, we can project, ABC News now projecting that Donald Trump will win the 40 electoral votes of Texas.
Texas will go to Donald Trump. North Dakota will go to Donald Trump, as expected. South Dakota.
The presidential race in South Dakota. The winner is Donald Trump. a winner in the Wyoming presidential race.
Trump is turning out people in very red parts of the state and across the country. It's a trend we're seeing even in states that aren't that competitive. The Trump base is out in force.
Again, we got a long way to go. 45% of the vote still to be counted. But in the vice president's camp, you're a little nervous about that.
Appears to be quite a tight race here.
In fact, as we were talking, Texas has been called for Donald Trump.
In the state of Wisconsin shows that Trump has doubled his support among black voters in the state. Wow.
Some of the news here, not great in my opinion.
Vice President Kamala Harris picking up the 3 electoral votes. She wins the state of Delaware.
Kamala Harris is projected to win the presidential race in Rhode Island.
And this just in, go ahead and New York for Harris. Okay, there you go.
Donald Trump will win the state of Montana. As expected, Donald Trump will win the state of Utah.
The FBI is reporting tonight that videos have surfaced online impersonating the FBI insignia to promote fake narratives, including complaints about malfunctioning voting machines. Similar videos out this weekend, videos, fake articles, fake social media posts, all of this to spread disinformation attributed to Russian bad actors. The U.S. intelligence community, the FBI and CISA, the Department of Justice, says that Russia is getting involved in our elections to bolster Donald Trump.
Well, U.S. intelligence would say they want Kamala Harris to lose and therefore Donald Trump to win. But this comes right to the policy around Ukraine, what Russia's modus operandi has been, trying to be agents of chaos. U.S. intelligence has declassified a lot, including information that back in January, Russian intelligence tried to hire Americans to carry out violence in the United States of America.
Look, guys, right now, election is still 50-50, but I know Democrats, they'll learn no lesson at all. In fact, they'll learn the opposite lesson. They'll be like, nailed it. Our answer going forward is more Cheneys. I'm coming to conclusions. It's getting narrower and narrower. That doesn't look good.
NBC News can now report that the FBI is tracking and investigating bomb threats attributable to Russia. There's no real threat. The threat here is the calling in the bomb threat, specifically to try to achieve chaos, to try to get these sites evacuated.
And for kids watching for the first time election results, they should know that we never had bomb threats before Donald Trump became a presidential candidate.
In Mississippi, that the winner of the presidential contest is Donald Trump.
He also wins Ohio, 17 electoral votes. Used to be a battleground state.
Illinois will go to Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris wins the state of Colorado, 9 electoral votes.
Louisiana, that the winner of the presidential contest is Donald Trump.
Trump also wins Kansas.
The former president will win North Dakota. Trump will win in Nebraska.
I can feel the anxiety in the crowd.
Once again, Democrats are going to come in late. They're going to come in late in Pennsylvania. And clearly in Georgia, what's happening is that Democrats are not overperforming. Democratic cities tend to come in late. I'm seeing that pattern once again.
Trump has won Ohio.
Well, I knew he was going to win Ohio, yeah.
Yeah.
I predict
No
that.
longer 50-50. I think Trump has at least a 75% chance of winning.
It's slightly arbitrary.
Yeah, it's not arbitrary at all.
Okay.
It's 75%.
Pennsylvania so far, at least at this point, looks like it has some promising signs for the Harris campaign.
This is the most interesting one. Miss Pennsylvania just flipped red.
Trump is winning the Latino vote in Michigan with 60% of the vote. Harris, 35% of the vote. That's a 25% advantage for Trump among Latinos. That is a big change. That's a 36-point swing in the margin.
This is definitely not a call. But if you made me guess right now who's going to win, Trump.
The Kamala Harris headquarters, what's the mood there?
Yeah, they're watching the numbers as they come in right now, cautiously optimistic.
Bingo. They still feel that they, have a chance.
It's not like I was certain about anything. I've never been less certain in my life.
Yeah, my God, it does not look good right now.
She can still pull it out. And by the way, Trump people, just because someone is trailing and then they come back and win does not mean cheating.
It shows that Trump is doing way better.
Whatever the reason, you can see tremendous gains. Extraordinary, just a flip.
And project another winner here in the state of Iowa. Former President Donald Trump picks up 6 electoral votes. Interesting.
Iowa will go to Donald Trump. That Kansas will go to Donald Trump.
Looks like a serious swing and a miss from a usually reliable pollster.
But Iowa has been called by CNN, at least, for Trump.
Iowa called for Trump, so there goes that nonsense. Kamala Harris is not winning. And the people who thought that Kamala Harris was going to win a landslide are Totally wrong.
There weren't a ton of people who thought that. I mean,
almost every Democrat I talked to thought that.
Well, I didn't see a lot.
Third party, RFK Jr., Democrats tried to prevent him from getting on the ballot. And then the Democrats tried to prevent him from getting off the ballot. If it comes down to really tight, that could make a difference.
Why would anyone vote for someone who doesn't want to be the president and has asked you not to? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Who are these 0.4% that are voting for someone who has begged you not to vote for him? If you want to see him in Washington, don't vote for him.
Florida has rejected adding a state constitutional amendment guaranteeing access to an abortion. This is a victory for Governor Ron DeSantis. Now, most of the South has very restrictive abortion policies.
It is also important because Donald Trump endorsed the no. So he has staked out a position. When he said he sent it back to the states, this was the result in the state of Florida.
Real cognitive dissonance. There could be voters who vote for Trump and the abortion protection ballot initiative. And that bends the mind, because how can you vote for Trump and the abortion ballot initiative?
She's not going to be like, no, I won. I don't care what the court say. I don't care. I won. Okay, it's about a 0% chance. Only a bitch like Trump does that. So let's keep it real on this.
They're reporting from the Harris headquarters, and I think the operative word right now is silence.
Searching for bright spots and also very aware of the warning signs.
I would observe that when campaigns go silent, that's generally not a positive sign. In West Palm Beach with the Trump team, what are they saying?
Yeah, Jake, much livelier here. As you can hear, Donald Trump's favorite song, YMCA, is playing behind me.
This map looks a lot more like 2016 than it does like 2020. There's a lot of red on that map.
But it's early. It's early.
We got a long way
This is where the biggest numbers come in. So that 10% can matter. But it's the only big county you have left, and the other guy has a 145,000 vote lead in a state he has won twice. To me, as I look at this map, the blue wall states become paramount states.
It is, of course, like our fate as in this Shakespearean drama. Absolutely, unbelievably crucial to the outcome of the presidential race.
Yeah, I tell you one other thing that people are feeling really good about, Rachel, and that is what they're seeing on college campuses. This is going to be big in Pennsylvania. It's going to be big in Michigan. It's going to be big in Wisconsin. And everybody needs to take a deep breath. Those are the 3 states we need.
Wisconsin? Let's pass it back over to Steve. I see you've got Pennsylvania.
That ridiculous clown of a man is going to be our president for another unbearable 4 years. This current batch of Democratic leadership has to be defeated in primaries. There's losers through and through. This campaign that Kamala Harris ran was insipid. Just a big nothing burger. I don't think Kamala Harris should have come on this show. She can't handle this show. But Tim Walz, what are you doing? We got all excited about Tim Walz, and you don't even want to go on the largest progressive show because they were too busy kissing Liz Cheney's
In
ass.
Nebraska tonight, Donald Trump picks up 3 electoral votes.
It's that he's beating himself twice over, right? This guy's been on the ballot a lot, still waiting on vote, but it becomes difficult as time goes by. There may not be enough of those blue dots left in a Georgia or North Carolina based on what we're seeing tonight.
State of California, Vice President Kamala Harris, where she was once the Attorney General and the Senator of that state. She wins in that state, picks up its 54 electoral votes. Where President Donald Trump picks up 4 electoral votes from Idaho.
I am just on X watching some of the Democrats complain about the Electoral College. Kamala Harris and this whole decision of Biden to run again when she knew that he was incapable, but they were still asking their donors, give us all your money. He's okay for 4 more years. And obviously he wasn't. But then that did not leave her enough time for her to introduce herself. Apparently that's another complaint that they have, even though they had over $1 billion to do it.
Had 100 days, and she passed up a lot of opportunities early on. I think we went for, 40 days or something with no press conference, and it took a really long time for her to finally have a substantive interview. I mean,
after the debate, she performed so well against Trump. I thought that the interview that Brett did with her was as substantive an interview as we've seen with her. You would have thought, because she did well there, that she would want to go and do more of them. But
more interviews,
more interviews to sit down and talk
with Brett.
And said no, and they are waiting for what. But they're watching the blue wall, and they're watching it not anxiously yet, that would have been eagerly.
Yeah. Right. Let's just be blunt about this. If Kamala Harris wins Michigan and she gets 270, she wins the presidency. It's a tight race. It's a tight race. It's a tight race.
They think they're doing okay. They report that they see that they're expected to do slightly better than expected. It's still a very early night despite those numbers.
Let's bring in Pete Hegseth, who is at a honky tonk in Nashville. Of
course he is.
Of course he is. Where else would we?
Honky tonk in Nashville. I can't hear a thing. I can't hear myself think. And everybody's watching you guys, and you're doing a phenomenal job. Vibes here on the ground. We're talking to voters today too. This feels a lot like the 2016 vibes as you see the results coming in. You can tell the crowd here. Pretty silent. Could be a very good night for Donald Trump. I can't hear you, but I love you.
Well, we've got reporting that former President Donald Trump is claiming that there is massive cheating happening in Philadelphia. Donald Trump made similar claims about Philadelphia in 2020.
This isn't a mistake. This is a strategy from the former president. He is laying the groundwork to challenge the results, and he did it in 2020, and he started this with Pennsylvania months ago and basically has been doing it all day to sow doubt. And the folks in Pennsylvania, they are very legitimately worried about the damage that this could do, the potential for violence in the streets that we could see as a result of this because people get whipped into a frenzy. There are real consequences to lies like this when they're spread.
Bob, it's interesting. They say she must win, but do they think she can win? They expect people to be optimistic at this point.
But a lot of Democrats, to be clear, on edge right now.
Our coverage of the 2024 presidential election, it could last for weeks. I'm not sure. I was just making sure you're all still here with me.
Oh, yeah, Donald Trump. Oh, screw freedom.
I think the reason there's so much anxiety is that I think it is fairly shocking. And I don't think it's something that should make us super proud. That despite all of the things that, even if you could somehow forget January 6th and a coup to overthrow the country, even if you could forget taking classified documents and hiding them, you could set aside sexual abuse against a woman and then 24 other allegations. You know, Jeffrey Epstein saying it was his best friend. Like, you name it. You just think about the things that Donald Trump has said and do, the vulgarity in front of families with young children and the threats of violent start to his dictatorship on day one. And if all of that gets you half of the votes,
49%.
What does it tell you? I mean, we need to really take a step back and think about what does that say about us?
The 12 electoral votes from Washington will go to Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris will win the state of California with those 54 electoral votes. Donald Trump will win the state of Idaho with its 4 electoral votes. Okay. Oregon will go to Kamala Harris.
A few minutes ago, let's be blunt. What Democrats were fantasizing about was a landslide victory, where he wouldn't be able to peer at a red mirage and falsely claim victory. That really wasn't on the table. What will start to be something we keep an eye on is Donald Trump is against all the votes being counted. At least 4 years ago, that was his public position. I think this will become another test for the country and our patience.
The math there is pretty clear. It's not mission impossible. But the more you get deeper into the count, the question is, does it become mission improbable?
I've worked on too many Democratic campaigns to throw in the towel. This is when it gets really good. You got to stay up past midnight to find some joy.
Donald Trump has done something incredible in resurrecting a party that was dead with a new coalition that, regardless of whatever ends up happening here tonight, certainly we can take away. This is the most incredible political comeback that we've seen since 1968.
Perhaps the greatest night the Democratic Party can ever have if they lose. I was very troubled just over 100 days ago when they circumvented the democratic process and anointed somebody. And the influences of a Schumer or a Pelosi or a movie star or an Obama deciding to anoint somebody, those guys are gone. I care about policy. And when I hear policies coming out of a party that are so twisted against the American way of life, like, that's not America. That's bad. I have nothing against Harris. I mean, look, she did a masterful job in getting to where she is. It would be good for them to lose tonight.
But the Secretary of State in Georgia, Donald Trump, has a, quote, insurmountable lead with the number of votes outstanding. The Republican, obviously very friendly with Donald Trump.
And he's elected Republican, but he is a straight shooter. No doubt about it. So, again, we haven't called it, but I would take what he said very seriously.
You know, the Trump campaign is celebrating tonight.
The vice president's campaign, well, they say she only had 110 days. She didn't have enough time to introduce herself. Or, you know, that part, we're not done yet. But that's what's going to happen, you know, if that happens, is who the finger pointing in the Democratic Party.
Well,
it's not where you want to be if you're the Harris camp. Spent so much time there thinking that they might get lucky there. It's not over yet, so this is going to be very, very close. A long way to go, but rather be Donald Trump here than Kamala Harris.
I would rather be Kamala Harris. A great turnout today with the same-day registration, as well as some of the young people in line. So I still believe the verdict is still out.
Could be right.
Well, you owe me a beer.
I don't think you're going to be right, but you could be. I'm not saying
I'll
it's
take
over.
Milwaukee best.
I mean, I'd rather be where we're at.
These are razor-thin margin.
Yeah,
I
for
mean,
sure.
come on, let's not try to win by a blowout. I mean, she's getting there.
In 2 presidential elections, Donald Trump has lost the popular vote both times. At the moment, he's 5.1 million votes ahead. If Donald Trump wins this election, that would be a trophy he would very much like to claim. That is the map of 2016, and that is the 5-alarm fire inside the Harris campaign to get on the phone. Trying to be fair and trying to be, yeah, it's possible, yeah, it's possible. When you're leading in all of them and you're Trump, I mean, that's what you're sitting in the headquarters. So maybe they're not going to win them all. Right? Maybe they're not going to win them all. But they're leading in all of them.
Out here is still large, is still loud, but a little bit more subdued. And the word that I keep hearing, it must be some new phrase that has entered the lexicon, is the idea that people here are nauseously optimistic, not just cautiously optimistic, but nauseously optimistic. Mention North Carolina, for instance, thinks it doesn't look good there, but the real focus now is on that blue wall in the Midwest. But it's clear now that Donald Trump has picked up key support among Hispanic voters, despite all the things that he said at that rally at Madison Square Garden, a real nail-biter.